Hi everyone, it's Nina. Welcome to my channel. I'm your host for this channel, The Nina Project. Remember to definitely share, subscribe, and definitely leave a comment below if there's anything specific you want me to talk about or you want to discuss. Leave a comment for me. So today I actually want to introduce myself to you and I want you to get to know me a little bit more and hopefully I get to know you a little bit more. So I was born and raised in Iran. I was born after the revolution, during the war. So the first 6-7 years of my life was in the war. And I do remember vividly the sirens going off, the bombs dropping. And I think that had a huge impact on who I became later on. But luckily for my parents, I had a very lovely childhood. And growing up in Iran was not always easy. But my parents made sure that we are getting enough of different culture and education and everything else. And in Iran, education is everything. So I grew up and I got a bachelor's degree in physics in Iran. And then when I moved to the US, I changed my major to architecture and I got a master's degree in architecture. And I worked as an architect for 5-6 years. And then I changed direction and I became a broker in the financial industry. Now I'm an entrepreneur and I want to create this channel because I want to be able to talk about today's topics, anything that is in your mind, anything that we can improve our community in our country through. Now today, what I want to talk about is something that has been going on. There's a movement about it, and I've actually witnessed it myself, whether when I was in Iran or when I moved here. And that is that as a generation, as a species, as just like a country, we are getting softer and softer, and it's affecting everybody. And one of the biggest parts that it affects is men, because they say that men have gotten a lot softer. There's a lot that, maybe older generations would be able to deal with. And if they were confronted, they would be able to navigate through not only themselves, their families and the country and the community. But maybe today we don't have as many men who are able to step up to harder roles, to more difficult roles, to maybe tougher situations in life. And a lot of people are saying that is because we have a lot of single parents and a lot of single moms try to raise boys. And as much as I agree with that, and I think that's a very, very valid fact, because a boy needs a role model in life to become a man. And yes, hopefully those fathers are available, the fathers that are around. Sometimes the fathers, the parents haven't gotten separated, but the fathers aren't around. So they're emotionally unavailable, or if they are around, they don't really teach their sons how to be a man, or they're just not present. As much as I agree with that 100%, but I also think there are a lot of other factors that play a role. And we forget that the society plays a huge role in who we become and who we are. And even if you send your kid to a summer camp, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, those 2 months, those 2 weeks have a huge impact on who your child becomes. The teachers, the schools, everything and everyone. So we have forgotten that we are like the links of a chain. So I'm going to tell you a personal story. I grew up in Iran, obviously, as I told you guys. And growing up, I had a lot of cousins, and most of them I kind of had to be responsible for. Whenever we went, everybody would say, hey, Nina, everybody's under your charge. Make sure everybody's fed. Make sure everybody's okay. Make sure everybody is taken care of. Nobody gets hurt there. So, and this is since I was like 5 years old. So I had to learn so much about every single one of my cousins. I had to learn their personalities, who they are, what they like, what triggers them, what motivates them, what can I do for them to listen to me? Because at the end, if we went back and one of them was hurt or one of them was missing, I would be the one who will be responsible. So these 2 cousins of mine, 2 boys, brothers, they're like maybe 1.5 years or 2 years apart. So one of them, which was the older one, and by the way, I love both of them to death. He was very sensitive, very fragile, and he was very skinny. And I always had to make sure that he's okay. Whatever anybody said, it would offend him. Maybe he would even cry sometimes. He was very shy, very timid. And the father is a very, very manly father figure, my uncle. The mother is a very feminine mother figure. She was a stay-at-home mom and he worked. So nothing there would suggest that there's something going on in the house that is not raising him as a tough boy or to be a man. In Iran, you are required to go to 2 years of military services. When you turn 18 as a man, if you're a female, you don't have to or you can't go. But as a man, when you turn 18, you either go to college or you go to military services. If you go to college 4 years, after that, if you continue, get your master's, you can, you don't have to go to the services. But if you don't go to school again, you have to go to military services. So this cousin of mine turns 18. He doesn't get into college, so he goes to the military services. 2 years. After those 2 years, he became a different person. He became a magnet for all the parties. He was no longer shy. He started growing his body. He's a very tall, handsome boy. He started a business for himself. He became a tour guide. He would take people all around Iran. He became a problem solver for every single one of his friends. So those 2 years changed his life. And yes, maybe if he had gone to college, having the example of his father being manly, my father, his uncles, everybody around him, he would have changed his life around. But those 2 years put an impact on him. And by the way, he's not the only man I've seen, the only boy I've seen around me in family or friends that has turned his life around just by going to 2 years of military services. I'm not condoning military services. I'm not saying everybody should go to the military. I'm just saying as a society, we're not supporting the idea of men being men and women being women. We think men have to, change somehow the role, and then women have to take the role of men. And we think if we compare men and women are weaker because physically, we were not born to be as strong as men. We were born to be strong, but we were not born to be as strong as men. And we think that's like a deficiency or something like that. So that is why when people say it's only the single mothers, it's because of the single mother, epidemic or pandemic that we have weak men. I don't think that's the only reason. I really don't think that's the only reason. One of the men, because there are a lot of men in history who were raised by single parents or single moms. Do you know Andrew Carnegie? He was raised by a single mom. And there are a lot of other examples. I'm not going to go through the names right now. But if you search, there are a lot of men who grew up without fathers. But they still became manly and they left a legacy and they did something great with their lives. So I think it's a little bit more than just, and yes, the divorce rate is ridiculous. But I think it's a little bit bigger than that. And we can't just put the blame on the single parent who doesn't have time. Because yes, boys who are raised without fathers and girls who are raised without mothers always have something, a conflict within them. But that doesn't mean that they have to be lost all the time. Anyways, that's my 2 cents about the topic. Please leave your comment below and let me know what you think and let's start a conversation.